right, so I'm chewing a little bit of gum tonight, so hopefully I'm not as loud and obnoxious as I think I sound. I'm usually a little bit more self-conscious about that in my head. What's going on, people? This is an emergency broadcast episode, I'm going to call it, of the Talkin TV podcast. People, in case you live under a rock and just haven't been on social media in the last, 3 hours, I think that it's been since this news dropped, there was a giant bombshell of a news. It was like one of those things where it's like, okay, this is like, you know what it is? It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to quite compare it to like a JFK assassination moment because I think that might be a little bit too over the top and ridiculous and not quite on the same level. But as far as just like how this type of stuff affects our lives overall and just the lives of all of us movie watchers, this is one of those moments. And I really don't put it lightly. I'm Dom, the movie nerd. You guys should all know me by this point. Chris Ivanko, unfortunately, could not be here tonight. He is a final because he's still a full-time film student. And when I told him about this news, he A, hadn't heard about it, and B, he was like, oh, man, yeah, too last minute for me, even though he agreed that it was a bombshell. But he gave me my blessing to carry out this episode. And I was going to do it alone. And I'm like, nah, I've come too far in my podcasting career to be able to do this entirely on my own. So I reached out into the ether. I messaged as many people as I could. I was like, hey, can you do this? They were all did the same typical excuse. Nah, I'm busy. Nah, we're already covered on our own channel. And I'm like, damn. Because then this guy came in clutch. I was like, yo, I can do it. I'm like, you're on. Done. I sent him the link like 10 minutes before I pulled this thing up. And so people, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Talkin TV podcast back. And I'm pretty sure actually appearing on this channel for the first time, unless I'm mistaken, unless he was on a stream that I was not present for, Mr. Alex Figueroa of Levels of the Geek. Alex, what's going on, man? Happy to have you here.
This is my first time here, man.
I just want to make sure. Because Chris got on a bunch of people that when I haven't been on. So
no. This is the first time me here on this channel.
All right. So Chris. Yeah. So Alex, can you do me a favor? So obviously, again, not to point fingers, you're a little bit older than me. So like, what was the last time I would say that you experienced this type of an event?
Well, this is a pretty big bombshell in terms of shaking the film industry. The same as, to me, it's the equivalent to musicians once digital music came out. Because it totally, I mean, digital music totally destroyed music as a whole.
Right.
So this is, to me, it's kind of equivalent, but we'll tap into this more.
Kind of like around like the Napster days, right? Just about when that dropped and like officially made like you could like officially like stream all your songs like pretty easily.
Well, yeah, but in terms of digital music, kind of changed the landscape of music because technically, like before that, musicians were getting paid a lot of money the more album sales you buy, but now they're not even getting paid as much in terms of digital. You know what I mean? Like, right. Or now they got to make all their money during concerts. That's why you got to pay like $800 a ticket. Yeah, because you got to pay for that. But again, to me, this is equivalent to that, music going to digital that changed the whole landscape for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to say that it's anything unexpected, which might seem like the wrong word choice to use, only because pre-COVID, this is kind of already the direction that just the industry seemed to be moving towards in general. Like I've heard a lot of behind the scenes stuff from people who I know who were saying, a lot of like the smaller companies that they work for were already looking for products like this. Like Netflix had already kind of jump-started this, especially in the last couple of years when you see them not only just putting out like larger budget affair that seems to be like in direct competition with a different form of media than just the traditional television landscape was used to, but also with kind of them writing this amount of blank checks to like these crazy, incredible directors in order to try and get all of this Oscar credit. Obviously you see them writing, they give Scorsese the money to make The Irishman. They let Noah Baumbach make Marriage Story. They let Alfonso Cuarón make Roma, which again, it's like baffling, but like it kind of signaled, obviously, and has been signaling for the last couple of years now, kind of this shift in how we perceive kind of our media in general, right? And obviously with the emergence of COVID-19 and just the overall shaking that's done within the film industry as far as what it's done for movie theaters, you've seen the emergence of a dozen new streaming services, all of which want their piece of the pie. Obviously, Disney Plus is crushing it right now with The Mandalorian. Apple TV is kind of just hanging around. Hulu will do as Hulu does. Netflix is still, for the most part, reigning supreme. But today, at 1:30 p.m., officially, I have it right here in this article that I pulled up, Warner Brothers pulled off the gangbuster of all gangbusters. Like, of all, I've read a lot of, like, gangbusters, like, major industry news articles over the last couple of years, and this one takes the cake for, like, the biggest, just, like, whoa moment, for lack of a better word, which is that, as of 1:30 today, Warner Brothers officially announced that its entire 2021 movie slate will be dropped directly on HBO Max. Now, as far as caveats go with that, because obviously there are just so many different things to break down. So pardon me, but I'm actually going to read a little bit of the article. There are some limitations to this new business model. The movies will only be streamed on HBO Max for 1 month before leaving the platform after a period of time, and they will play in theaters simultaneously. But if theaters are even still open by then, but again, we have to take that with a grain of salt. They kind of just have to in order to like keep reassuring people, hey, theaters will totally be open soon. That way they can keep the relationship with movie theater distributors like AMC and Regal. The plan is to run this experiment for 1 year and 1 year only. So that's technically December to December of 2020 to 2021, because it technically gets started next month when Wonder Woman 84 drops officially on HBO. And for people who don't have access to HBO Max in their market, it appears that the theatrical release will likely go to the option. And the list of movies on their 2021 slate includes The Little Things, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, In the Heights, Space Jam: A New Legacy, The Suicide Squad, Reminiscence, Malignant, Dune, The Many Saints of Newark, King Richard, Cry Macho, and Matrix 4. The titles could change depending on delays. All the films, however, as of right now, will be released on HBO Max in 4K, Ultra HD, and HDR. And the movies will also likely help Warner Media reach an agreement with Roku after months of fighting over a deal. Warner Media is also offering a limited deal, making HBO Max 22% cheaper for people who sign up for 6 months. So the $69.99 price works out to just under $12 a month rather than $15 a month with this new deal. So I think it's safe to say, just right off the bat, I mean, the first place where my kind of troll brain goes to is, goddamn, Warner Brothers is stepping up to Disney and being like, your move, Disney. Ball is in your court for right now. I mean, yeah, just like break it down. I just dumped a bunch of information on the people.
Well, but the crazy thing, you got to think of it this way. What Warner Brothers did is, okay, we're going to allow you to watch all our slate for 1 month. Now, now this is kind of different, because I thought it was okay. You get to see it whenever you want. Now, no, this is 1 month once of the release date. So now you got to think about it. Look, everyone is YouTube creators. Everybody's going to have reviews on all of these movies now. So let's just be honest with each other here. You're going to see 100,000 reviews of each movie. I mean, regardless if you're on Instagram, you're just going to see it. So
a lot of new TikTok reviews.
Yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that stuff. But it's a 1 month. So now you have to think about this, because what happens if you miss out?
There you go. That's the incentive. That's the incentive right now for people is there are a couple different things that I see going into this. One, obviously, the whole idea of this existing alongside theaters, because I don't know about you, but there are like still a couple of theaters close to me, not in my state because I'm in New York, but where I live in New York, I have access to Connecticut. And to my knowledge, all the theaters that are still currently open in Connecticut are still open. How they've been able to stay open, I have no idea, because they probably have like a max of like 5 people showing up a day to go to the movies. But as far as that goes, kind of the expectation obviously would be that, again, if for whatever reason somebody did want to go out during the pandemic and risk going to a movie theater that is open, presumably so, they would still be able to go to. But the thing about this is that it's a couple of different things. It drives people towards the subscription service, obviously, but they have rules in place that will allow people to watch it, but give them enough incentive that's different than, say, what Disney quite foolishly did with the Mulan live action movie, where they're like, hey, dropping this on Disney Plus, pay $30 to watch it now, or just wait 2 months to watch it for free, which is like, that's dumb. Like if I'm like not the rabid movie going fan, I'm just a regular people, I'm gonna wait 2 months. I'm sorry, Mulan is not the highest on my priority list. But what I think HBO and Warner Brothers doing here that's right, that Disney did not do correctly, is one, I don't know exactly how the release schedule is going to work, but I don't think they're going to drop them all at once. I think that would be foolish, and just the fact of people's attention spans, just the amount of time they have, they wouldn't be able to watch all of them. No. I think it'll be a situation of where every month they'll release like a couple of movies, and that'll get more subscribers. And the incentive will be that, okay, you got to go on this month if you want to watch this movie, but you'll still, if and when these movies go off, which they will, they'll have new movies to replace them. So that'll continue to give people an incentive to not only subscribe, but stay subscribed and just keep building up subscribers. To me, it's the mistake that Disney made when they first released Disney Plus last year. They've improved, obviously, immensely from that, which is where a lot of people who I knew subscribe at the first time for that first season of The Mandalorian and then unsubscribe as soon as they were done with it. Like, I know people who actively did this throughout the years with HBO Now with Game of Thrones. They would subscribe just to watch Game of Thrones, then unsubscribe because they just didn't care about anything else. And this is, I think, rather brilliant just from a strategic standpoint of like getting from a subscriber base of like, okay, we're going to have enough new content going forward that it's going to give the people an incentive to like, okay, we're going to keep getting something new. We're going to get some bang for our buck if we not only subscribe, but we stay subscribed as well.
Well, I mean, look, well, just think of it this way. And you got to really think about this. Are they going to release it on the release dates of the theater, which they are, because they say it's going to be theater and you know,
streaming at the same time.
Right. But what people don't understand is, and I think a lot of people are forgetting, Justice League is coming out next year too.
That's true. The Snyder cut.
Yes. So with that, they're going to extend a lot throughout the month, because you got that in March. I believe it's March, right?
Something like that. The thing that I saw posted after this was dropped was they said like early 2021, but who knows? That could mean March, it could mean April, it could mean May, you know?
January, like
something like that.
So so you got to think of it. They're gonna put that is gonna come out to kick off the whole movie, you know, 1 month. And again, Justice League is going to stay there forever because that's part of the exclusive
that's
HBO Max.
That's a little bit different because that's a Max exclusive. That's not like what Warner Brothers, like Warner Brothers is essentially subletting out these movies to Max before they take them back. So that way they can like preserve some form of like legitimacy, I guess, for lack of a better word. But like Justice League, the Snyder cut is going exclusively to Max and staying on Max. That's like a Max original. You know, like that's what that's being pitched as. It's kind of another part of their reason in order to differentiate. Oh my God, hold on. I just got to pull it up because my buddy Dustin just commented the Ayer cut could be a possibility too. Good God, I hope not. But that would be hilarious if that was a thing. That would be
But I mean, and then also you got to also think in terms of, okay, this is a genius move, and this is why I say it's a genius move. You get the movie for a month. Right. Whereas I did not pay $30 for Mulan, and I was never going to pay $30 for anything.
For a lot of different reasons, but same.
That was one. I was never going to pay it. Mulan was not the movie I wanted to pay $30. Now, however, if Black Widow was the first movie to do it, I would have paid the $30. I would say, okay, you know what? It's a Marvel movie. That they should have did it with that. I think it would have been more successful, and then a lot of companies would have did a lot of premiere tags to their big movies. Well, they didn't. They did it to Mulan. I think it failed, but a lot of people say, oh, it was successful. Whatever. Who knows? I think it failed because there's no way that was a successful thing.
Successful experiment, if you will.
That was a failed experiment. Now, Warner Brothers was like, okay, now we have an experiment here. We're going to take a year. We're going to give everyone technically free because you're paying $15. This is a free movie,
but for whatever reason, people regard streaming services as being free. So I'm like, okay,
let's just do it this way. They're gonna give everyone free access to premium movies for 1 month for free. Now,
pretty much.
I think that is it's gonna be highly successful. Why? Because I swear to God, if Batman was coming out this October like it was, that would have changed the whole landscape because everyone would have been like, okay, Wonder Woman, Batman, King Kong versus Godzilla, The Conjuring 3, The Matrix 4,
Dune, which was getting great press after that first couple trailers.
So, and then I'm looking here, like no one gives a shit about Tom and Jerry, so I mean, who cares? But again, those are big movies. And I'm telling you right now, Warner Brothers dropped the microphone, they dropped the hammer, and they're gonna be like, listen. You guys are now have to figure out if you're going to follow our model, give away your movies for free with the subscription, because no one is going to pay $30 for the damn movie to come out 3 months later for free. Again, I was never going to do it unless it's a comic book movie that I really wanted to see or John Wick. I'm going to be really honest with you. John Wick, I would pay the $30, but everything else, I could wait.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you covered basically so many different things that I wanted to touch on. Basically, that like I don't even know where to begin. But like, it's like, well, Disney obviously kind of screwed the pooch as far as that goes. They've like Disney wanted to be the first as far as testing out whether something could make that kind of money exclusively released on a streaming service, and we all saw what it did. As far again, it's you can't really regard these things as a success or failure because the problem is that like none of these streaming movies have like any metric for success yet because they don't release their numbers, and even still, the idea of like how streaming services make their money is still something that I'm like trying to wrap my head around. So that's just like a level of economy that I just can't get to. But you're right. As far as like the choice of movie that Disney could have made as far as testing the loop, again, I think that I don't necessarily know if Mulan was the right choice. I think we're all kind of convinced that it wasn't, but it was also a thing of like, it was kind of all they had at the time. So as far as just like a movie that they could like, expend out there and not worried about, obviously Artemis.
I don't believe
Artemis Fowl was never going to do those types of drum up that kind of press. So.
I don't want to cut you off, but to be honest with you, I don't believe that. Because I think Black Widow was already done.
Right.
Because they kept pushing the damn thing back. So why couldn't they just go?
Because the other thing to keep in mind here is that at that time, they were still, for the most part, confident, or not confident, but they were still riding off the hope that the movies were going to open again. They were like, okay, what are we going to hedge our bets on? Are we going to hedge our bets on Mulan, which who knows how that would have done in theaters? Because, I mean, I don't know what the overall tracking numbers were for their live-action remakes, but they know it's like, if they got a bet between a live-action remake versus a Marvel movie, it's a pretty safe bet as to which one they can afford to throw out as far as that goes in order to test the waters on the streaming service versus which one they might still be able to clear back, like, $4 billion or whatever the extreme number on by opening it overseas. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, just as far as everything goes, is the idea that Warner Brothers, obviously, it's kind of been known, has always had this like subtle, unsubtle competition with Disney ever since, the Batman versus Superman Civil War days, right? It's been this never-ending conflict that Disney has quite hilariously been destroying Warner Brothers at. And the funny thing, and ever since Endgame, Warner Brothers has been trying desperately. They got their little bit, they got a little bit of their like air, a little bit of breath, with Wonder Woman. They're like, finally, people are talking about us and they're not shitting all over us. And then Justice League came out and kind of ruined that. And so now they've had a chance now for about a year and a half to start to make an impact. They've started to slowly crawl their way back. Like Joker being the success story that it was tremendous. Birds of Prey didn't quite do what they wanted it to do, but that was also because, again, another infamous marketing screw up. And they were obviously always going to hedge their bets on Wonder Woman. They were probably breathing a breath of fresh air when Disney pushed everything back. So obviously, the decision of Disney to correct on their mistake and put Soul out on Christmas Day prompted them to do the same thing with Wonder Woman. And obviously, I don't know like kind of where the train of thought comes in. It's like what the timetable was. It's like when they were planning on making this move. But the one thing I will say is that was obviously a very planned approach and it was probably talked about for months. And obviously, definitely the minute that when Disney made that first press release saying, yeah, we're basically abandoning theaters and we're putting all of our focus in Disney Plus, that was when Warner Brothers were like, okay, we got to make a move. And we got to do this, and we got to hedge our bets. Short term, the one thing I will say, and this is something that I feel like everybody has to keep this in the back of their minds, short term, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt a lot of people. A lot of investors are going to lose money. Like, it's one thing to, like a common question that may come up is like, oh, well, what happens if like Netflix gets a movie from a studio? It's like, and they just drop it, it's a studio dump. I'm like, no. The difference there is that that's a movie that was already going to lose money in the theaters because of the vast amount that they probably already lost on marketing, and early projections and early test screenings probably showed that like, yeah, this movie's not going to make money. So it's save some money, sell it to Netflix, collect at the very least on what we would have lost. And at the very least, it's not considered a loss. These, for the most part, almost pretty much every movie on this list, with the exception of a few, and I'm actually going to get to that in a little bit, every movie on this list was a movie that was, to me, for my money at least, probably going to do at least moderately to extremely well in theaters on like any given year. Obviously, again, Warner Brothers have been trying to play catch up with Disney for a while now, but they've obviously, again, they've been, there's a reason why they've been number 2 behind them for the last couple of years. Like Godzilla vs. Kong, that would have been an event. Dune, they were building up as an event. Suicide Squad, again, that was going to be their go-to DC movie. Obviously there was just a lot of stuff that went into that. Space Jam 2, there are Matrix 4, there are a lot of titles on here that like, no, these were gonna open in theaters, and who knows how they would have done box office wise, but they would have stood to make a decent amount of money that obviously would have satisfied it, obviously their investors. And so that's where the risk long-term is going to be, is that this is officially Warner Brothers making the bet long-term that, okay, we're going to stick with streaming. There's a lot of problems, obviously, that went into HBO Max's release. That's the other thing to keep in mind, too. They screwed the pooch, as far as I'm concerned. They didn't do a good enough job building up to it, and they made the dumbest fuck. I still have no idea why they did this. They made the dumbest fucking mistake of not just putting all their stuff on one platform. They differentiated. Like, some people still have HBO now. Which is a tremendous mistake as far as I'm concerned. And like, they were having all these different problems with Roku and getting the deal on them, which again is what most people have. They did not do a deal with Amazon. So all the poor schmucks like myself who got stuck with their HBO Now subscriptions through Amazon cannot access HBO. Like I cannot sign into HBO Max with my current existing HBO password. So this is going to be kind of their latest and a long line of incentives as far as getting people to subscribe to their app. Because again, subscribers, they understand now, are the way of the future as far as media goes. Now, before we keep going, Dustin actually had 2 more comments. Space Jam 2 is going to be wild. Fingers crossed, because let me tell you something, that plot summary sounded amazing. And it sounded like Last Action Hero meets Looney Tunes. So I'm like, I'm down for that. And exactly, Black Widow should have been out on streaming. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Black Widow's a weird example as far as Marvel movies go, because like, of all the upcoming Phase 4 movies, that was the one that I gave the least amount of shit about. And it's the one, again, it should have been released years earlier. And the fact that we're getting it now is kind of an afterthought. And literally, it's just filling in stuff that like happened between the other movies. I'm like, I don't care at this point. It sucks that we didn't get this years ago. But like, I mean, that's just a specific example. I don't want to like deter too much from the conversation. But like, just as far as like my Black Widow thoughts go, I'm like, that's why I'm like, and Phase 4 movies to be in general, just as far as where my thoughts on Marvel goes, like, again, Endgame to me is the last Marvel movie as far as my MCU goes. Everything else is just like kind of secondary or just like epilogues at this point. You know, I don't know if you feel the same way, but
well, in terms of Black Widow, we'll just hint on it quick. But in terms of Black Widow, I agree with you 100%. I was never crazy about it, but again, it was the first movie that they finished. That should have came out first to kick off everything. It should have been the first movie they had on Disney Plus, regardless if it was premium or non-premium. But again, this is pretty huge in terms of the whole landscape of movies, because I don't think this is going to be very successful for Warner Brothers.
Yes.
Regardless of what their DC movies was against the Marvel. Look, I always tell people this, for me personally, DC takes risk with their movies, whereas Marvels do not. They don't. And people could be like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. No. If you really look at it, Batman v Superman was the first movie to do Batman versus Superman. And guess what? They filmed Captain America Civil War against each other. Then we're going to do Wonder Woman. What happened? Then came Captain Marvel. Now they announced, hey, we're going to do the Flashpoint. And what did they announce? We're going to do the multiverse. So again, it's always going to be a competition. I don't give two craps. It's just, for me, I think DC does more of a risk taking. Not many people will like it. Most people will hate it. I enjoy it for what it is. But in terms of this Warner Brothers thing, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs in the movie industry in terms of theaters. I'm not talking about in the industry. I mean, maybe it will start booming. Yeah, I just feel bad for those type of people. But you know what? Times are changing,
right?
And you're gonna have to get with it. Guess what? Drive-throughs was the biggest thing in the 50s, and guess what? Then they came movie theaters.
I still have no idea why they didn't release like all the new movies and stuff. Like, obviously, again, like I was reading a big thing. Like, obviously, nothing official has been said yet, but like I can already tell, like Christopher Nolan is already like having talks with Warner Brothers. Isn't like, yeah, if this is the way of the future, I'm out. Because like Nolan, again, that's like how insane of a filmmaker Nolan is. If we're talking just like about him and specifically, obviously, again, the sad kind of truth about Tenet is that Tenet, the movie that was supposed to bring back movie theaters, ended up kind of killing them because of just the vast amounts of money problems that movie ended up having. But yeah, that's the sad fact. And it's tricky because, again, the problem is that I can't say definitively whether or not this would have happened regardless of the pandemic, but like it always seemed to be the direction that things were going. Obviously, again, just taking it from a common sense guy. I mean, you're a dad, you've got kids. Yeah. Like, obviously, again, it's what are you gonna pick? Are you gonna pick like taking your whole family out to see a movie, you know, everywhere, or are you just gonna like put them on something that's brand new on Disney Plus that you pay $15 for one movie for like 5 people, as opposed to like $15 a ticket to go to a movie theater? You know, obviously, again, it's like, again, movie theater ticket prices. It's something that I was hearing Quentin Tarantino talk about on a director's roundtable from a couple of years ago, where he was talking about how movie theaters are not giving enough people incentive to leave their house to go to movies. And that was true 5 years ago. It's still true now. But again, that part of that wasn't necessarily their fault. It was just a choice of like the type of movies and just the overall economy of just where the media landscape was going. But he brought up something interesting, which is the fact that the whole incentive for moviegoers is the idea that it's always been the working man's media. Movies were not like theater. They were not like these bourgeoisie things. Like, the whole thing is that the reason why movie theaters were $5 for everyone is because when they started out really going mainstream during the Depression, the idea was they were supposed to create some alleviation for people who were just having a lot of real life trauma in their lives, you know? And it stayed that way for years. And then around the late 90s, you started to see movie theater tickets go up as the budgets ballooned and they started really getting into this special effects work. And it was always going to get to a point where that really started to affect people. But like, we've been hearing people complain about how expensive it is to go to the movies for a long time now.
Yes.
And that's why, again, one of many, many reasons why streaming has kind of been overtaking it for the last couple of years. And again, just the COVID was the straw that broke the camel's back. Caleb brings up another good point. Nolan's probably going to do a niche service like Apple TV Plus that will give him his release day window in exchange for exclusive streaming rights. Again,
hey, that's a great point.
It's a great idea. It's a great point, but again, it's the whole idea is Nolan is very diehard theater based, and it's just going to be interesting to follow where he goes from here on out.
Well, he needs to get, to be honest with you, he needs to get with the times too, because he has to realize not many people are, demographically, older people go to the theaters too. When you go see a nostalgic movie like Star Wars or whatever, how many people are old? And
every movie that I've seen in the last couple of months, like there has been statistically more older people than people my age.
Yeah, you see them like 50 years old all the way up to like 90.
Yeah,
they're crawling into the theater. And I'm not saying it in a joking way, but you understand what I mean? Like they have their walkers and stuff. Yeah. But and that's the thing. Like Nolan has to realize most of the movie industry, people that go to the theater are older people. Now, the younger crowd will come out for younger movies, Fast and the Furious, Marvel, comics, DC.
But again, it's the whole problem with why like these streaming services and obviously again Instagram and all these technological services are like destroying movies, because again it's the idea of younger people obviously just have lesser attention spans. That's why like so few of them actually go out to movies. It's why so many of these movies are derivative. Now, apropos of that, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, part of the reason I think the other thing that HBO is going to see an advantage in this is the fact that the one thing I will say is that a brilliant piece of movie marketing that, as far as I'm concerned, has not been well utilized at all by the studios yet, and if they do it very minimalistically, is the use of social media to market their movies. Because let me tell you something, when certain clips get released early for movies and they can already make memes about them, they get spread like immediately, it's like boom, like that movie like instant shot up as far as the stratosphere.
I'll tell you this, if I was a CEO of Warner Brothers, you know what I would do?
What would you do?
This is what I would do. I will have incentive-based program for YouTube creators to promote movies. Whether you are whether you're a 0 subscriber all the way up to like 1 million subscribers on your channel, you have incentives that will get you free gear, free press kit that people could never get access to. But the higher you are, the better the press kit. So you could work your way to getting that. Like they should do something like that for people like our pages that we promote the shit out of these movies, or we talk about it, we hate it, but we have to gain 100K subscribers to get a free 4K where I gotta
publicity is bad publicity.
Right. So why not cater to us? Say, you know what? We will give you guys a press kit. You push this movie and do that way. You know what? I think that should be the way of the future. If YouTube is running the whole thing, why not?
They pretty much are.
Yeah, they're running the whole thing. How many YouTube channels are review based?
Well, too many to keep track of at this point, but it's a lot. It's a big portion of YouTube's like sub movie algorithm.
Right. I mean, we all have friends in the same genre of reviewing. We all have different opinions. But my thing is, why not open the doors for creators like us to have press kits and allow actors to come on our page and talk about the movie for a minute or 5 minutes, and that's it. Open the doors for us and stop and then when we put up a post, what happens? We get tagged. Like, why? We're talking about your damn movie. Like, why are we getting tagged? But anyway, that's another discussion. That is something that I would love to push hard for. And the same thing I told my community on Mondays and Wednesdays prior to Black Friday. Get yourself an OLED TV. Get yourself a QLED TV, because that is 100 times better than going to the movies, because guess what? You're not going to have access to a movie. Build your surround sound. Build your damn movie theater and buy your 4K. Sit at home, because I guarantee you these movies will be coming out streaming. And guess what? The day has come where all these damn movies came out. And I said this for months now that this was going to happen. But again, that is just me. I always get angry at that stuff because I'm like, they should open doors for us. I'm tired of this. That I have to be at 10K subscribers just to get some stupid feature that could help me out, but I have to kill myself just to get to that feature. Like, come on, screw that.
This is, you literally just like took like you pulled a Chris. You reached into my brain and you plucked the thoughts out. Like, I've been having these thoughts for years, but it's like, I'm like, okay, they understand that YouTube is a thing, and they understand that even though, again, it's not like a majority of the audience that goes to these movies, a lot of people are pushed towards these movies because of the traction that these YouTubers who get a lot of these views get towards the movie. So why don't they work in tandem? Especially, forget the higher-ups who are already going to get those guaranteed views. They can put out a video of one of them farting and they'll get like 10 million views. Why don't, again, extend it out to the younger guys, the hungry guys, the ones who will put in that extra work as far as getting them those promo materials. And again, like, I just wanted to give a shout out to our friend Brandon of Brando Critic, who just interviewed Isla Fisher and the director of the new Disney Plus movie that came out. I can't remember the name of it.
The Wonderland?
Maybe something like that. And he actually got to interview Isla Fisher on his channel, which is huge. Like, we've known Brando like the last couple months now, and he's like one of the nicest guys ever, like up and coming YouTuber trying to work for, to get these views, just like we are. And hey, that's a huge step. And I definitely think that'd be a tremendous missed opportunity as far as HBO goes. As far as few more comments go, Dustin wants a mini-scenes, a newer trailer. Me too, Dustin. Me too. I've been waiting for it. I want that shit like yesterday. Could have been eligible this year, but it has to be released right after the deadline in March. Yeah, I was just like, yeah. It's weird, though, because that's actually another point that I wanted to bring up in a little bit. And then Caleb brings up, I need the Mortal Kombat trailer. Yeah, that's another one I'm really interested just to see how that turns out, obviously, with the legacy that the original one has. And then he said, Godmothered. I don't know what that is. And then WB needs to go all in on Vero. Snyder Cut Phantom is going on Vero, and they're backing HBO. Wait, what is that?
That's the movie Brando, I think, reviewed. Godmother.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. So what is it? Warner Brothers needs to go all on Vero.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Vero.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's another streaming site. Because I know for a fact Zack Snyder is big on Vero.
Okay.
Because he shows clips. He showed pictures when that whole fiasco with Justice League came out, and he was just opening up the floodgates, going, "Hey, look at this new screenshot from a new scene."
Was just on Twitter. Like what? Like what is their like their presentation method? Like, do they do like exclusively director behind the scenes? Like, what is it?
No, I think it's one of those things like this. It's just a smaller thing that you could do like a 15-second clip or 30 seconds. Well, I know for a fact Zack Snyder is huge on it. That's how I know Vero from. I bet they have other people. But you know what's funny? Foo Fighters have their videos on Vero.
Really?
So like if you watch a music video, it'll say Vero and then it'll say Foo Fighters Everlong. And then they'll say in the bottom, it'll say Vero. See? Vero is like his version of Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like Twitter and Instagram.
Got it. Okay.
So there you go.
I've never heard of that before, so this is the first for me. So
yeah, I looked it up.
I just thought that like the new thing that the kids were into was TikTok. So like hearing that there's something else as far as that goes, I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, there's always new stuff popping up that I don't hear about, and yeah. So one thing that I wanted to get into next is kind of what was interesting about all these movies is kind of the idea of, obviously, a well-known practice today is the fact that most, half them, specifically the independent movies that we get now, are going directly to streaming, obviously. So I want to play a little game. I'm going to read these movies off.
Okay.
And if you don't know what they are, I'll pull them up with the plot summary right here. And I want you to guess as to whether they would have opened in theaters or whether they would have gone directly to HBO Max. Because famously, obviously, I think the first movie that went directly to HBO Max that was going to open in theaters was that Seth Rogen movie, American Pickle, which thank God that went to HBO Max where it belongs. So we're going to start off. The first movie that we have on this list is called The Little Things, which is a drama written by John Lee Hancock, who directed The Blind Side, and starring Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. Clashes between a Kern County deputy and a Los Angeles detective occurred during the investigation of a murder. Scored by Thomas Newman, shot by John Schwartzman, and it was produced by Grand Via Productions under Warner Brothers. It was set to open on January 29th. Would that have gone to streaming, or would that have opened in theaters and been a January dump?
That would have been a January dump. Because you have Denzel Washington in it, and you have a
Yeah.
lot of big people. So I don't think that's gonna go straight on. That would be a January dump.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, Denzel, Leto, unfortunately, still huge stars. Rami Malek getting up there, obviously, still is yet to appear in the Bond movie. So yeah, that would make sense as far as the theater going effort. So next. Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a film directed by Shaka King in his directorial debut that's going to star Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield was a Black Panther who was coerced by the FBI into assassinating Daniel Kaluuya's character. Let me just look that up so I can get the character's name. Oh shit. Okay. I didn't realize that. I'm an idiot. So the character that Daniel Kaluuya will be portraying in that movie is Fred Hampton, the Black Panther leader portrayed famously by Kelvin Harrison Jr. in Trial of the Chicago 7, who was famously assassinated after a police break-in into his house. So, So would that have gone streaming or theaters?
I say streaming.
You say streaming for that one. See,
I think it might be streaming.
It's weird because remember how Queen and Slim came out in the fall, and that was it was weird because I felt like that movie was a big deal for like a minute. And then it wasn't. So, you know?
Could be. I mean, I just, to me, the whole plot, okay, great. But I think it might, that one I would have said it would have went to streaming.
You would have said streaming.
I think it would have went with streaming. Because how did that one do in the theater?
It hasn't come out. No, none of these. Oh, wait, Queen and Slim?
Yeah, how did that one do?
I will check for you. Again, like overall, just box office is so reliable nowadays. But let's see. Okay, off of a budget of around 17 to 20 million, it made 47.9 million.
Okay, so it's not that bad. So I think it would have went straight to Slim. Straight to Slim.
Yeah,
it would have went straight to streaming.
It would have straight to streaming. Yes, Dustin, we know that all these were supposed to technically be in theaters, but we're playing a game as to whether they would have gone to streaming or theaters or not. So next on the list, Tom and Jerry, the movie, which is a live-action adaptation of Tom and Jerry with animation styling. Again, not quite the same level of bad animation as Sonic, but kind of following in that same line, which teams Chloe Grace Moretz up with the iconic characters and what I assume to be some sort of mystery in the vein of a million other types of movies that we've seen before. Theaters are straight. Here's the thing. I'm tempted to go theaters with this one. Like, I think that if COVID had never happened, if the pandemic had never, I think this one would have gone to theaters. Like, I think this would have gotten like, I don't think it would have done well, but I think they still would have released this in theaters just because the IP is like too big for them to like kind of leave off.
I would tell you right now that thing was going to hit the. I mean, anything that has to do with cartoon and legendary nostalgia is going to be big in the theater. So I would say theater.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, this next one is interesting because the thing about this next one is that this is a movie that seemed like destined for theater. It's one of those movies where it's like, okay, there's no way you could watch this on streaming. But the interesting thing is that the last couple movies, I should say, in this canon did not do so well. And that's Godzilla versus Kong. Where Godzilla versus Kong, I'm actually going to look up the budget right now. Obviously, following up in the legendary Monsters verse that has been happening over the last couple of years.
It might be 200K. I mean, 200 million.
I'll check right now. So obviously started off with Godzilla in 2014, the Gareth Edwards famously directed one. So that movie opened on a budget of 160 million and cleared 529 million. That was the first Godzilla. Then the next one, which obviously was 2019's Kong Skull Island.
That one. Okay. Yeah.
Kong Skull Island had a budget of 185 million, did 566.7 million. I think it benefited just from when it was released. It was released in March, the week cushioned in between Logan and Beauty and the Beast, which are obviously two of the biggest success stories of 2017. So Kong Skull Island was able to pick up a little bit. And then that brings us to the most recent entry, which is 2019's Michael Dougherty's Godzilla King of the Monsters, which opened on a budget of 170 to 200 million, only cleared 386 million at the box office. So that's a pretty significant drop. And I remember the whole thing is that before this news story dropped today, a lot of rumors are already circulating that Godzilla vs. Kong was going to be like the next big announcement that it was going to drop directly to streaming. So that's why that's a little bit of an interesting case, even though, again, it seems like you're like, oh, come on, how could this not open in theaters, you know?
Well, I'll say this. I will pick theaters, to be honest with you.
I would too.
There's no way, because I saw King of the Monsters in IMAX. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Again, look, let's just rephrase that. I thought it was a good movie with the monsters fighting each other, but I thought the human side of the movie sucked
like
ass.
Most of these types of movies. Which is that's the problem. It's been the same problem with each one of these movies. Like Bryan Cranston's the only good part of the first one. John C. Reilly's the only good part of Kong, and like the rest of the humans just suck and can go away. You're only there for the monster action. It's definitely a thing that like these writers, creators definitely I think need to do a better job of. But again, I'm sorry. I don't give a shit who the human characters are. You're telling me that we're getting Godzilla versus Kong, and it's gonna look like those last couple movies did. Say what you will about those last couple movies. Those last couple movies were fucking incredible on a visual effects standpoint. Like the one thing I am legitimately pissed at is that Godzilla King of the Monsters did not get a visual effects nomination because the visuals in that movie were legitimately incredible. Some of the best I've ever seen.
No, it was the best, but in terms of the storyline, it was just stupid.
Yeah, the story was dumb.
It was horrible.
It was the same Roland Emmerich plot that you've seen a million times before. A bunch of wasted celebrities and just characters delivering bad exposition that you've heard before. And the sad thing about the monster fights, if we're going to talk about those, which were clearly the highlight of that movie, the monster fights were horribly shot. Like they were like either super wide shots or like close-up point of view shots from the humans looking up at the monsters, which is a terrible way to view the fight. Like at the very least, in that first movie and in Kong, the fights were shot at like medium to wide distance. So like you weren't so far away, but at the same time you weren't like right up there, so you could actually tell what was going on. That's what made those fights interesting, you know? What's it called? Adam Wingard was a cool director for that. Well, I was about to say, Dustin, I know you and I like Death Note, but obviously regard the live action Death Note for that. And so was the Krampus guy. You're right, unfortunately, for Michael Dougherty.
I mean,
Krampus?
No, I have not seen that one. But look, to be honest, look, if we're gonna pick all the movies that I think is gonna stay in it, was gonna be look, Matrix 4, theater.
That was going to theaters.
Dune,
that was going to theaters. Like Suicide Squad, that was going to theaters.
Right. Like to me, all the non-big named movies with actors, to me, was gonna go straight to the show, straight to the streaming.
I agree. For the theaters bit though, I would also throw in Conjuring because the Conjuring movies have been doing a lot of money recently, and I would also throw in The Heights there because the musical subgenre was kind of seeing a little bit of a resurgence, you know, with La La Land, and then with Greatest Showman was a tremendous smash success. Cats not so much, but Cats just had a lot of other things going into it. But also with the fact that Lin-Manuel Miranda was behind that. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a very, very sellable name. In the Heights, I think would have gone to theaters. But I'm tending to agree with you because I looked through all those titles. Many Saints of Newark was a title to me that, frankly, I'm confused as to why they were ever going to put that in theaters to begin with. The Sopranos prequel movie. That was already a movie. It's like, yeah, you got Steve Sharipa and Michael Imperioli doing the Talkin Sopranos podcast right now. That just seemed like something that would have benefited way more from being HBO Max. So I'm confused as to why they were ever going to release that in theaters. Reminiscence is a sci-fi movie starring Hugh Jackman that was from the creator of Westworld. That seemed destined for streaming. A couple of these other ones, Crime Macho was the new Clint Eastwood movie. A couple of these other ones I'm not remembering off the top of my head. Malignant, King Richard. Space Jam, though. That's an interesting one. Here's the thing about Space Jam. That's one I could have seen going either way. I feel that could have been just as equally successful. Like, if it had been in theaters, it would have been a smash hit. Definitely, because Space Jam has enough of a nostalgia factor and enough of a legacy behind it. There's a lot of again, older people who grew up with that movie, but also a lot of kids grew up and love that movie. Like my brother's 19 years old, he loves that movie. So I think that one would have definitely been interesting. But what's it called? Yeah, that again, like, but I also could have seen them doing okay, if they pull a King of Staten Island and say, okay, theaters are closed now, we don't know when they're going to open again, we're going to drop this right to VOD and see how many people go for it, I think a lot of people would have just as easily gone for that.
No. I think they would. But look, Space Jam 1, 2, 10, 20, it still would have brought people to the theater. Again, LeBron James is a big superstar, regardless if you hate him or not. The guy is worth $1 billion, whether Nike endorsements or whatever you want to call it. He was going to bring people to the seats. The movie was going to bring people to the seats. Everyone's going to know Michael Jordan was going to make a cameo somewhere in that movie. There's no way you're going to have Space Jam without Michael Jordan. But in terms of this news that came out today, I think we're heading for a change in terms of I wish I knew the line from The Day After Tomorrow when he talked about the climate change and he goes, we're heading into a new ice age. That's where we're gonna head.
If only I'd watch Day After Tomorrow more so I could remember the quote that you're talking about.
I think he says we're heading into the new ice age. I think that's where we're heading. We're heading into the new.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
We're heading into the new cinema age of filmmaking.
Hold on to that point, because actually, again, that's where I want to, bring it into as far as wrapping this up. But I just wanted to read you, because do you know what the plot summary of Space? Do you know what the plot summary of Space Jam: A New Legacy is?
No.
So this is a plot summary. I'm going to read this for you. With the help of Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes characters, NBA superstar LeBron James will rescue his missing son Bronny by navigating through movies in the Warner Brothers catalog as they challenge against the villainous AIG's plot to win a basketball game against his team of foes who will be seen by the entire world. The live-action cast, obviously LeBron as himself, Don Cheadle as the voice of this AIG villain, Sonequa Martin Green as Savannah James, and then Sierra J. Wright as his son Bronny. And for the voice cast, this actually had an interesting cast because they had a couple of familiar faces, a couple of new ones. Eric Bauza will be replacing Billy West as the voice of Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Tweety, Pepe Le Pew, and Marvin the Martian. Kathy Suchet, I don't know how to say that last name, will be returning as Lola Bunny. I think that's actually the original voice of Lola Bunny. Bob Bergen as Porky Pig. Jeff Bergman as Sylvester and Foghorn Leghorn. Fred Tatasciore as Yosemite Sam. So, and LeBron James will also be voicing somebody else in the cast. So yeah, it's literally Last Action Hero meets Warner Brothers catalog. So I don't know your thoughts on that, but
yeah.
It's Space Jam. People are going to watch it. People are going to watch it.
I'll tell you this. Whatever sneaker he's wearing in that basketball court, they're going to sell it. And it's going to make tons of money.
It's going to make the first one look like an actual commercial as far as how much merchandise this movie is going to sell. It's going to be ridiculous. Like, sneaker sales are going to see, it's going to be the equivalent of what the Queen's Gambit did for chess. They're going to see the highest record amounting sales of that sneaker that they will ever see. Now, before we wrap this up, Alex, I did want to talk to you a little bit because I told everybody that I saw, that I talked with, that I shared this news about, that this was a momentous occasion. That I said that this is probably the most significant piece of movie news that has happened to us in our lifetime. And a couple of guys were asking me, they were like, why? They're like, it's just, they're just going to streaming. Like, who cares? Like, this has kind of already been going that way. I'm like, that's because we're already preconditioned to it. We've kind of had this acute understanding of this for the last couple of years because we've always been in it. But like taking a step back and looking at this from the bigger picture, it's this idea of that, like, yeah, like if you think about it, this is the first time since the invention of cinema itself where the primary method of release and first time viewing for a movie, for a feature film without any sort of like, again, leaks or anything like that, like the mainstream primary method of viewing a first-time movie will be on our computer screen in front of us and directly to us at our homes in our couches. And it's tricky to say that because, again, we've had Netflix for the last couple of years, so we really haven't. So we probably aren't thinking like it's that big a deal. But like Netflix is still a very recent phenomenon, and the problem is that Netflix still wasn't the majority. The majority of movies were still being made to go directly to theaters. Like you were only seeing last year, like the number of movies that dropped right to Netflix were going up, and they were going up and up each by year. But even still, it wasn't quite to the level that it is now. Obviously, again, we have to take the pandemic factor of it all, which is that who knows where we would have been without the pandemic. But the pandemic certainly seems to have sped up something on the horizon that was already inevitable as it was. So the one thing that I'm going to say before we get out of here is that, like, yeah, this is something that, again, it's you, me, a lot of other people in our circles have been saying for a while that streaming was going to overtake it. I know a couple of people who were favoring it. I know a lot of people who weren't, because again, it's the idea of, I don't like I said, obviously I've had a couple of recent problems with just people and dealing with people in theaters. Obviously, again, everyone being on their phones, no one actually enjoying the proper theatrical experience. But at the same time, I understand that, again, this is not a generation that kind of presentation is made for. And that's depressing to think about, but it's true. So look, when it comes to theaters itself, I'm always in this very torn hit or miss position because I have to weigh like the economics of it all versus my own personal bias, which is, again, economically, theaters have been dying a slow death for a while now. Personally, I love going to the movie theaters. Like part of the reason why I love movies is getting to watch them in the movie theater. Taking aside all like Scorsese and Nolan's comments on like the originality of the pure theatrical experience. Movies have changed since, the types of movies that they were talking about. But
well, I mean, I agree what you're saying. The thing is, again, newer generation.
Right.
We're in a generation that now we have access to whatever we want during whatever we're playing on the PS5, whether we on the PS4, whether we on our iPhones, iPads, iWatches. If you're on the
is the new world power. It's so funny. I was literally talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and like we were joking around, but they were like, he was like, we were like, yeah, there's never gonna be a civil war. I'm like, yeah, because we are privileged asses can't look up from our smartphones or avoid like our Uber Eats for 5 seconds to actually disrupt the status quo. You know, like I'm like the only way that a civil war would actually happen is if all the power went down across the globe. That's literally the only way that it would happen.
And people still won't know what to do without their phone. And the thing is, yes, like if you're gonna ask me, can I live without the theater? Absolutely, I could, because I have 2 kids and I need to get a babysitter. And again, with the COVID, there ain't no babysitter. So where am I gonna see these movies from? So with that said, I'm happy these are coming out to streaming. I have my entertainment system is set up for movies now. So it's like I've had it for years. So like it doesn't bother me. Whereas other people, you need to be in a dark room. You need to have 20 speakers in your ear blasting at it. Okay, do I enjoy it? Absolutely. It was a treat to go out. We're in a generation now. Guess what? People love being at home now. Now, some people love being out, but no. Now that when we have access to, now you said it, Netflix, we have our PS5s could do everything in one box. Our Apple TV. Granted, our phones do the same thing. Come on, how many times does everyone, before you say, hey, I'm going to go to bed, your ass is on Instagram for an hour or two liking or trying to post or do something? So with that said, yes.
I feel personally attacked by that statement. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
No, but I was just saying, like, in terms of, that is where we are now.
Yeah.
And people have to realize there ain't no going back. There ain't nothing changing. So
things never move backwards in society. No. It only moves forward.
January 2021. What's going to happen? Successful. Warner Brothers. What's going to happen? Guess what? All the movies starting from now on is going to be 1 month release. And then you're going to get it on 4K DVD disc. Blu-ray disc the following 2 months down the line.
HD quality, like, that you have access on said PS5. And also, don't forget about the most important thing, the sequel to Shark Boy and Lava Girl, We Will Be Heroes, directed and made by Robert Rodriguez in his garage, will be released on New Year's Day on Netflix. So that's the most important takeaway from 2021 right there.
And you know what? And I will end it with this note. Netflix opened up the doors for big-time directors and actors to come in on a cheap to give people a movie.
Forget movies, just some incredible. Like, look at what The Queen's Gambit just did. The Queen's Gambit, you're talking a 7-episode, for lack of a better word, extended movie, because that really, the way that series plays out really is like an extended movie featuring a bona fide movie star at this point. Like, Anya Taylor-Joy is a movie star made by an incredibly talented writer-director who has had years of experience working in Hollywood on feature films. For an idea that was originally supposed to be a movie. And you get that, and it's the most watched thing on Netflix, and it's a thing about fucking chess. And it's the most watched thing on Netflix.
And I bet it raised chess. I bet people wanted to become fucking chess players.
But chess sales were at the highest they've been in years.
So with that, in every invention, something is going to go off. It's going to launch into something. Let's look at it this way. And I'm just going to do a quick ass timeline. And you can correct me because I know you're a big TV fan. 24, Kiefer Sutherland was the first big actor to change the landscape of TV, coming from motion picture to come in and do 24. People were like, holy shit, you got a big known actor to do an action TV show that was awesome. Right? It was awesome. You go, holy crap. It's
tricky. I don't remember. Like I said, I always think George Clooney and Bruce Willis. The problem is, again, I always get those mixed up. But those guys went from TV to movies. But as far as big movie stars going to TV shows, I think that might have been the first one. I can't think of anything else before that.
Right. So he was the big dude. Like, you go, holy crap. He went from Lost Boys to Jack Bauer, right? So you go, oh, crazy. What happened? It opened up the doors. Then you got TV shows like Lost, X-Files that opened up. Oh my God, you can have horror TV shows. And it was boom. You have these sci-fi shows all over the place because the X-Files. Then you got all this Lost, and then all these shows have to be complicated to sit down and you got to think this shit. And oh my God, CSI changed the whole crime scene investigation shit for like 10 plus years. They opened up in New York.
Actually.
Yeah, you had CSI Las Vegas, Miami, New York. Bam. Then you got NCIS. That spawned
Oh,
into
don't get
another
me started on NCIS.
Right. And then what happened? Then you had, guess what? DC opened up with Arrow. From Arrow, bam, you got Flash, Supergirl, Batwoman, all this crap. Then Marvel, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Bam, you got all this Cloak and Dagger. Then Disney Plus. Everything will come from one idea. We'll go, hey, and then bam, it opens and it just like a flower. It goes all over the place. So with that, I would like to end with this is just like music, with digital music, change the landscape of musicians, the way they get paid, the way their music gets distributed faster than, like they did records. Warner Brothers just opened up the whole landscape for movies.
You're right. You're 100% right. And the only thing that I'll add to that, as far as the TV show argument, is the miniseries argument, because the whole idea is that, obviously, again, Netflix and David Fincher revolutionized the TV model just with the idea of releasing all the episodes at once on Netflix, obviously, and then you had Sopranos before that with the idea of kind of taking that was the first that really took the serialized film format and brought that to TV. But on top of that, the idea is that, what's it called? Oh, shit, I just lost my train of thought. Damn it, I hate when that happens.
Well, you just hit something on the head, too. Wasn't Stranger Things the first TV show to give you the whole show in once?
No, that was House of Cards. House of Cards did that first.
Well, I never seen that show. So,
if they were the first, House of Cards was the first one that did that. That was the first thing where it's like, okay, you are getting all the episodes at once. But as far as the miniseries go, the miniseries are where the interest in me comes from, because that to me is real. Because here's the thing: House of Cards started off kind of experimenting, right? But as House of Cards went on, it really was just a TV show. At the end of the day, it was just like kind of settled into the new model of the TV show, which is again kind of these limited, more so shortened 8 to 10 episode shows. They would really have to like put the story and make sure that each episode mattered. They've kind of gotten away a little bit from that in recent years. But what's interesting is that the miniseries and the anthology shows that they were kind of able to experiment around. The biggest things that I point to are when FX did American Horror Story in 2011 and then did Fargo a couple of years later. Fargo to me was the big one, where Fargo anthology, each season is a different set of characters set in a different timeline, but they're all set in the same universe. You see a couple of characters bouncing back and forth between the seasons and interacting with each other. And also they're paying homage to the original movie by the Coen brothers. So you've got all of that going into it. And on top of that, you've seen like that model of storytelling on TV kind of evolved. Now, this is something that I was talking about with the Queen's Gambit on our episode a couple nights ago, which is that like you're now seeing basically these extended movies as miniseries, which is kind of always what miniseries are that we're supposed to be, but they never really found their niche until recently. Like you look at Chernobyl, that's a 5-hour movie. Escape at Dannemora, that's a 7-hour movie. When They See Us, that's a 4-hour movie, as far as I'm concerned. It's the same thing with the Queen's Gambit. That's a 7-hour movie, as far as I'm concerned.
And you know what? That is something that's going to be new. And guess what? Justice League is going to be a 4-hour.
That's the other thing. Exactly. I'm actually really glad that you brought that up. Justice League is continuing in that trend where Justice League, you either have the 4-hour long Snyder cut or you have like the 4-episode miniseries of Justice League, the Snyder cut. Either way, you have it. And it's available to watch however you please. So,
hey, what's up, Jay? Jay just came in. Hey, how you doing, Jay Manley?
Yeah, Jay. What's going on, dude?
But yeah, like I totally agree with you. Warner Brothers just opened up a can of worms. The Pandora's box has been opened, and it's never going to close.
Exactly. The demons have been released into the world.
Yes. In the words of the Ghostbusters, you blew up the containment unit, and it's going to be a bitch to put all those ghosts back in the containment unit.
Hell hath no fury like streaming services unleashed. The only thing that I'm going to say to leave off with this podcast is Disney, your move. That's the only thing. Oh, my God. They're fucking Disney. Like, I don't know. Like, if you're Disney, right? You're a Disney executive. Let's just speculate a little bit. You're a Disney executive. You know that Warner Brothers is like gearing up for a big assault. You have to assume that some format of this is coming, right?
You have to, but I bet you they start pumping up the production on all the Star Wars TV shows.
Definitely. Well, I mean, Obi-Wan is still in production as of right now. The word is still out. Again, if they are working on any spinoffs for all the new characters they've introduced on this season of The Mandalorian, who knows? But the other thing that this opens a possibility for, too, in addition to the Marvel stuff, right? Obviously, again, I think obviously COVID benefited them with the idea of now the fact that, again, their TV shows, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, are going to tie heavily into their movies.
Yeah.
It only stands to benefit them, obviously, with dropping their movies on Disney Plus, because now it's all in one place. Like, people don't have to worry about, this TV show, it connects to this movie. There's always that distance when it comes to, like, trying to connect TV shows to movies and everything. It's something that I'm seeing with this season of The Mandalorian. But the other thing to keep in mind is, does this mean that the next Star Wars movie goes directly to, does Taika Waititi's standalone Star Wars movies that's still happening go directly to Disney Plus?
No.
You don't think so?
No, because they make billions of dollars without it.
Right, but so do the Marvel movies.
Yeah, but the thing is that Star Wars is not going to push that project fast. They're going to take their time after the debacle of 7, 8, and 9. So
right, obviously they want to take their time with the movies just in general. But I'm saying, just like the Mandalorian, for lack of a better word, has become the new Game of Thrones. Only a year and a half after Game of Thrones ended, which I never would have thought, of all the shows to take Game of Thrones place as like the must-watch TV show of the moment. I was not thinking The Mandalorian either, but it's there, and it's like huge right now. Like, that's the show that has them saying, okay, we got to focus all our efforts on Disney Plus now. So,
well, the only reason why that show is being very, very successful, and we could end it here, is Dave Filoni is the one that's writing these scripts, and with Jon Favreau, they know their characters, they know their origins, they know where they come from, their background. And I think if they gave Dave Filoni the helm to Lucasfilms for these projects, I think they have all their projects would be golden. Because look at Ahsoka. It was written and directed by the guy who created them, with George Lucas. And it was 10 times better than 7, 8, and 9. And that was a 9-hour movie. Something, and this was 45 minutes. And made more sense than a damn 9-hour movie.
And it had just better character development. Again, it's the amazing, again, it's to me why Marvel was successful, where it's amazing what happens when you put the people who actually, care about these properties in charge of making these properties creatively. Pretty amazing how that works out, right? They're successful, they're well-liked by people, and they're well-received critically. So with all that being said, Alex, thank you for joining me. Again, it was a last-minute pull-in, but you managed to make it. Guys, this was a tremendous bit of news, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see where this goes throughout the next year alone and the rest of the decade, and just the rest of our lives in general, because we don't know how this is going to affect movie going forward, but it's going to be an interesting journey, to say the least. Before we get out of here, Alex, please tell the good people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Yes, you can follow me on Levels of Geeks on YouTube, Instagram, Levels of Geeks, Twitter, Levels of Geeks, and Twitch, Levels of Geeks, where I play my baseball games and some other games I play throughout the week. But you can follow me. It's more of a film community-based Levels of Geeks. It's more topics. We do some movie reviews. Jay Manley is from the Levels of Geeks family. That's what we do Monday and Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. We sit down, we talk. I have two different hosts. David from Flex Talk is on Wednesdays, and then Nate is on Mondays, and I love it. Two different people's different perspective. We have fun. The community likes it. We have phone lines. You call in, and just like a radio station, a 2-hour radio station, you guys could call in and talk to us while we're live on the show. But that's pretty much Levels of Geeks in a nutshell. It's just a film community based show.
Nice. Well, you guys should definitely go check that out and subscribe to this guy if you haven't already. And as far as what you can do for us, well, people, you can go to the Talkin TV YouTube channel. Just wait while I bullshit a little bit so I can pull up the page for, sharing the screen and that whole thing. But you can subscribe to the Talkin TV YouTube channel, people. We've been on a roll as far as subscribers go. Wow, hold on. We literally just gained like 3 new subscribers with this. Hold on. I gotta put that up on the screen. Like, hold on. I'm getting a little bit giddy with excitement here. Chrome tab. Yeah. Look at that, people. Look at that. 153 subscribers that we're up to right now. This is absolutely insane. Never in a million years did I think that we would be there in this short amount of time. But again, we are always looking to add new people to our ever-growing community. That way we continue to have great last-minute talks with people like this guy right here. We can continue to give you all of the recaps for all of the Mandalorian and all the new upcoming shows. We have a bunch of top 10s that we put out. I just put out a new top 10 list ranking all of David Fincher's movies right there, because David Fincher's got a new movie. The guy who arguably kicked off the Netflix renaissance has a new movie coming out tomorrow on Netflix. It's called Mank. It's about the making of Citizen Kane, and it's going to be awesome. I definitely think you guys should check it out. So that top 10 list is out. We have our next episode recapping episode 6 of The Mandalorian coming out tomorrow. You can find all that content if you just subscribe below. Click the like button. Click the subscribe button. What's it called? Leave a comment. Click the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you guys get notified every time we put up new content. We are on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Talkin TV Podcast. No G. People, this has been an absolute blast of a night. And Jay, you beat me to it because people, you know what I'm going to say. Watch more fucking movies for myself and Alex. Have a good night, people. And subscribe to HBO Max. Peace out.
There you go.